Last year, I let you choose what books I would pre-order for the fall, and therefore what books I would be reading in the fall, and that was a huge success. So I'm letting you do it again because I am so nice. But maybe I'm not actually that nice, because I'm not just gonna let you choose my pre-orders willy-nilly. I'm giving you a preset list of my own choices for you all to vote on. The game is rigged, it's all a sham. But it's fun anyway. I think it's fun. I hope you think it's fun. There are some rules, though, to this pre-order voting game. First rule number 1, is all of these books are from indie publishers, because that is what I focus on this channel, is independent publishers, if you are new here. Rule number 2 is that I only allowed myself to pick one book from each indie publisher that I included on this list. So I wasn't allowed to have 2 books, even if there were 2 books that really excited me. Rule number 3 is I have to read the books this fall as I get them, and then tell you about them in like December or January-ish, I think is around the time when I told you about them last year. That's the last rule for me. Rule number 4 is for you all. So I'm gonna give you a list of 15 books. Of the 15 books, choose the top 3 that you wanna see me pre-order and read, and mention them in the comments. And I will go through in early September, so you have until September 1st, let's say, to choose your top 3 books that you want to see me read. I'll go through and I will rank all the books based on the number of times they were mentioned in the comments, and I will choose the top 3 books mentioned in the comments to order and read. But there's gonna be another opportunity for choosing a book for me to read at the end. I'll mention it at the end. So I did a quick look around the internet to find books from independent publishers that are being released this fall, and I found a ton. I picked 15. These are by no means the only 15 that caught my eye, but I had to cut myself off somewhere. I picked 15. I noticed that they kind of fell into different categories, so I grouped them into 3 different categories of 5 books each. Group number 1 is called About Effing Time, and these are all books from publishers that I don't own anything from yet, and I'm mad about it. So first up is Bad Houses by John Elizabeth Stintzi, and this is from Arsenal Pulp Press. I don't own anything, nor have I read anything from Arsenal Pulp Press yet. It's a Canadian publisher. I have read another book and loved another book by John Elizabeth Stintzi called My Volcano. Bad Houses by John Elizabeth Stintzi from Arsenal Pulp Press is a boisterous collection of surreal, darkly humorous short stories that will delight fans of George Saunders and Kelly Link. Sign me up. In the surreal, often precarious realities of Bad Houses, a doctor discovers a double-edged cure for the Ebola virus, a college student loses a different body part each time they return home for the summer, which sounds eerily familiar to a bedtime story that my dad used to tell me called The Magic Waffle House. That's weird. Midas's hairdresser strives to keep his secrets, and a young girl develops a fascination with the trolls who harvest her father's pumpkin patch. At once humorous and horrifying, these stories will inevitably take residence in your mind. That's book number 1. I'm not saying, vote for it, but The next book is also from a Canadian publisher called Book Hug Press. I mentioned this book already on my channel once. It's called Caesaria. It's by Hanna Nordenhök, and it's translated by Saskia Vogel. This is, I believe, translated from the Swedish, I want to say. This is a novel that is set at the dawn of modern gynecology in the 19th century on a remote country estate, and a renowned obstetrician keeps a young girl that he once carved out of her mother's body. The girl now lives a dollhouse existence characterized by supervision and punishment, assault and incarceration. Caesaria is part Gothic novel, part fairy tale told in lush, elegant, and dreamlike prose. One of the blurbs says it's a glimpse into the life of a woman who's been reduced to a curiosity. From Hub City Press, which is a publisher that is dedicated to writing from the American South, is a book called Little Ones by Grey Wolf LaJoie. This is a collection of fiction and graphic ephemera. It plays in a space of shadows and in in-betweens. Informed by Appalachian experience and traditions of Southern storytelling, these award-winning stories are populated by the world's dispossessed, disturbed, and disregarded. The quiet interior life of a passed-over laborer. The bedtime story, A Goose Tells a Snake About a Boy Named Gray. Moments of a road-killed raccoon's afterlife, and advice to the children of a future apocalypse. Then we have another book I've already mentioned in another video from World Poetry Books. This is O by Judith Kiros. It's translated from Swedish by Kira Josefsson. This is an alternative production of Shakespeare's Othello that sidesteps Black Death for a multitude of futures. Kiros employs metric verve and critical bite to add to Shakespeare a wide range of historical and contemporary works, producing a meditation on blackness that sets up a new reflective surface at every turn. O marks the first translation into English of one of Sweden's most thrilling young poets. And then from Pulp Publishing, a Midwestern publisher that, again, is a publisher dedicated to regional writing, specifically Midwestern writing. This book they have coming out in the fall is called Reading Arendt in the Waiting Room, a Philosophy Primer. It's primer, right? Primer for an Anxious Age by Jonathan Foyles. And it says, anxiety may be the defining feeling of our current era, and though it affects many people on a deeply personal level, the last few years have also witnessed the rise of more communal feelings of dread and unknowing, problems that sometimes seem too big to face. And then it lists a bunch of problems. Read how Kierkegaard can speak to feelings of helplessness in the face of police violence, how Hannah Arendt can help us rethink the seemingly unavoidable problem of a warming planet, and how social advocates like Jane Addams and Dorothy Day can offer hope and resolve in a world that sometimes seems like it's already ended. Okay, I have to stop now because I have a haircut. I'll be back when I'm done. Where was I? My hairdresser is the fastest hairdresser in the history of time. I left my condo and returned back through the door 35 minutes later. It's amazing. Okay, where were we? Let's start with category number 2, which I'm calling Old Flames. And these are books from publishers that I have so enthusiastically supported in past videos that I feel like it's almost rather embarrassing how excited I was by books from these publishers in the past. Here are 5 books from Old Flames. From New Vessel Press, which published Pollock's Arm that I was obsessed with last year, we have a new book called The Propagandist, and it's by Cécile Desprairies, and it's translated by Natasha Lehrer. And it says, in a grand Paris apartment, a young girl attends gatherings regularly organized by her mother. The women talk about beauty secrets and gossip, but the mood grows dark when the past, notably World War II, comes under coded discussion in hushed tones. Years later, the silent witness to those sessions has become a prominent historian. And with this chilling autobiographical novel, she sets out to unmask enigmatic figures in and around her family. Why, she seeks to understand, did the narrator's relatives zealously collaborate with the Nazi occupiers of France, even remaining for decades afterward obsessive devotees of that evil lost cause. From Milkweed Editions, which I have entire videos dedicated to, is a book called The Science of Last Things, Essays on Deep Time and the Boundaries of the Self. These are luminous essays in which Ellen Wayland-Smith, the author, probes the raw edges of human existence, those periods of life in which our bodies remind us of our transience and the boundaries of the self dissolve. From topics ranging from the Old Testament to Maggie Nelson, these are explorations that are grounded in a rich network of associations. There's an essay about the postpartum body that weaves an experience as a mother with accounts of phantom limbs and Greek mythology. Essays about the author's experience with chemotherapy, leading to a reflection on Western medicine and its intolerance of death and the healing capacity of nature, breaking down our modern conceptions of individuality and reframing us as participants in a world of astounding elegance and mystery. From Split Lip Press is a book called Hold Me by Jade Vine. Split Lip Press is another publisher that I have talked about a lot. I really love pretty much everything I've read from them. About this book, the publisher says, the bedroom, the dinner party, the school grounds, the college queer collective, and the new city become grounds for critical and effective investigation in the essays of Jade Vine's Hold Me. These are haunting lyric essays in which Jade writes openly about their family and how certain identities complicate their relationships to them. Jade revisits and inhabits Punjabi folklore alongside their own personal stories and holds out a hand of reassurance even through their own uncertainty. $2 Radio is another publisher I have made entire videos about. They're based in Columbus, Ohio. I have been to their amazing bookstore in Columbus, Ohio. Highly recommend checking it out if you're anywhere near there. From $2 Radio is a book called Us Fools by Nora Lange, and this is a novel. It is described as a tragicomic, intimate American story of two precocious sisters coming of age during the Midwestern farm crisis of the 1980s. The sisters are Joanne and Bernadette, and they're raised on their family farm in rural Illinois, keenly affected by their parents' volatile relationship and mounting financial debt, haunted by the cursed history of the women in their family. Largely left to their own devices, the sisters educate themselves on Greek mythology, feminism, and Virginia Woolf, realizing they must find unique ways to cope in these antagonistic conditions. This is a debut novel, and it's described as a rambunctious, ambitious, and heart-rending portrait of two idiosyncratic sisters, determined to persevere despite the worst that capitalism and their circumstances has to throw at them. And finally, in this category is Biblioasis, another Canadian publisher that I have spoken about my deep love for a lot. The novel that I want to mention from Biblioasis coming out this fall is called The Pages of the Sea by Anne Hawke. And I just have this feeling that this might be a big deal novel this year. This is described as set on a Caribbean island in the mid-1960s. A young girl copes with the heavy cost of migration. And so the young girl, her mother emigrates to England to find work, and Wheeler is the girl's name, and her older sisters are left to live with their aunts and cousins. Everyone tells her that soon her mother will send for her, but how much longer will it be? And as she does her best to navigate the tensions between her aunts, why does it feel like no one's looking out for her at all? This is a story of sisterhood, secrets, and sacrifices of love, a tenderly lyrical portrait of innocence, and an intensely moving evocation of what it's like to be a child left behind. And the final category I'm calling genre bobanra banana fanafanra. And these are all books in various genres, genre fiction and one nonfiction that's more genre bending than anything else. So without further ado, let me tell you about genre bobanra banana fanafanra. First up is The Sapling Cage from the Feminist Press, written by Margaret Killjoy. And this is the gripping first novel in the Daughters of the Empty Throne trilogy. It's a tale of earth magic, power struggle, and self-invention in a powerful story of trans witchcraft. Laurel has always dreamed of becoming a witch, learning magic, fighting monsters, and exploring the world beyond the small town where she and her mother run the stables. Even though a strange plague is killing the trees in the kingdom of Sikon, and witches are being blamed for it, Laurel wants nothing more than to join them. There's only one problem. All witches are women, and she was born a boy. I think I'll stop there. Choose that one. Come on. The Fallen Sparrow from American Mystery Classics, which is an imprint of Penzler Publishers. The owner of Penzler Publishers is also the owner of the Mysterious Bookstore in New York? Let's look. Mysterious Bookshop. The Mysterious Bookshop, which I've always wanted to visit. Oh, where were we? The Fallen Sparrow is a reissue of a mystery novel from Dorothy B. Hughes. What caught my eye first was the blurb from Walter Mosley, who says Hughes' novels are carefully crafted pieces ahead of their time in their use of psychological suspense and their piercing observations about class and race. She was among the best. And The Fallen Sparrow is about loyalty and friendship that motivate a quest for revenge in this early noir novel by a master of the genre. For more than a year, Kit Trick languished in a fascist prison in Spain where he was tortured by a limping jailer known only as Wobblefoot. He escaped with the help of a childhood friend from America. When the two return to the United States, Kit goes west to heal while Louis remains in New York. But Kit's convalescence is cut short when he learns that Louis has taken a long dive out of a high window. He's certain his friend wouldn't have made that fatal fall without being pushed, and on a quest for vengeance, sets out for New York to get even with the killer. I'm gonna stop there. We have Good Night, Sleep Tight, and here is where you're gonna see that I am not an expert in horror because I'm not going to be able to tell you if it's Brian Evenson or Brian Evanson or pronounced entirely different than either of those things. What I do know is that Brian Evanson is a master of literary horror, and this new book of stories is a new collection from Coffee House Press, another publisher that could have fit in the Old Flames category, that traces the limits and consequences of artificial intelligence and post-human relationships. Populated by twins stepping into worlds of absence, bears who lick their cubs into creation, and artificial beings haunted by their less than human nature, each page sketches a world where our all too real feelings of isolation and ecological dread take on an otherworldly tinge. Coach House Books, another Canadian publisher that I have loved books from before, is a novel called Mary and the Rabbit Dream. This is a work of historical fiction. It's by Noemi Kisteaki. It is a story that's described as a sardonic feminist reimagining of the story of Mary Toft, the infamous rabbit birthing hoaxer. I'm talking about a book about a woman who gave birth to rabbits. Do you really want to come in here? Do you think whispering makes it better? Okay, what are you doing?
He's in here to grab. You've gone too far. It's not over there.
Oh, yes. I'm almost done, boys. All right, Mary and the Rabbit Dream. I'm not sure why I'm like angled so weirdly. Mary Toft was just another 18th century woman living in poverty, misery, and frequent pain, the kind of person overlooked by those with power, forgotten by historians. Mary Toft was nothing until, that is, Mary Toft started giving birth to rabbits. Last book under genre Bobanra Banana Fanafanra is genre-bending nonfiction, I think. It's a little bit of a stretch, but from City Lights Books is a book called The Afterlife is Letting Go by Brandon Shimoda. Brandon Shimoda is best known for being a poet, and this is a memoiristic travelogue. There we go with the genres, like kind of blending. A memoiristic travelogue that illuminates the enduring legacy of the mass incarceration of Japanese immigrants and Japanese Americans during World War II. These are a series of reflective, multi-layered, and sometimes multi-voiced essays, where poet Brandon Shimoda explores the afterlife of the U.S. government's forced removal and mass incarceration of Japanese immigrants and Japanese Americans during World War II. The author excavates the ways these events continue to resonate today in storytelling and silence, in literature and art, in legislation and protest. I'm really stumbling over my words here. This book is about memory, how we remember and how we forget, how remembering often takes a form of forgetting. That's the list of 15 books, folks. But there's more. I'm going to give you a write-in option. If you are aware of a book that is coming out this fall, let's say September, October, or November, from an independent publisher, ideally in the US or in Canada, so that I can easily get my hands on it. If you are aware of such a book that you are excited about, mention it as a write-in in the comments below. The write-in option that gets the most upvotes from other commenters, from other viewers, I will buy that book. So that will be my 4th book that I will pre-order. So there were a ton of heavy hitter independent publishers that I didn't mention here that have amazing books coming out this fall. Grey Wolf and New Directions, and I could keep going on and on and on. Maybe seek out some smaller independent publishers, or maybe you know of other presses that are interesting to you. Please make your votes for your top 3 that I mentioned and your write-in votes by September 1st, let's say. I will take a look after that point and place all my pre-orders. I hope you found some books maybe that you might be interested in reading this fall from this list. I thought this was a pretty cool list. I don't know, I was pretty excited about it. There are way more books out there. So if you want to know about books that have been previously published from independent publishers, sign up for my newsletter. I will leave a link for it below. I send out a newsletter every month in which I give you a big long list of all the books I found that caught my eye that were published the previous month by independent publishers and university presses. There's always some really interesting sounding books on that list. It's really usually quite a long list, so my apologies, but that's just how many good books are being published by independent publishers. So sign up for my newsletter using the link below. You will get a confirmation email. You might need to check your spam folder for that confirmation email. I hope you'll join me there. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Sarah. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.